Hi, it's Sandra here from Create in Spain, and today's video is about fine-tuning your polymer stamp making. Now, my last video I published a few days ago, which featured some frames that I've made from stamp making, some of these, and these are absolutely invaluable, I found, in getting consistent results. But what I wanted to talk about was the process of making a stamp where your fonts, for example, and it usually is a case of sentiment stamps, your fonts are different sizes, different thicknesses. Now, what you don't want to do is waste a load of your gel by just doing a stamp and thinking, well, you know, I'll pick a median time and that's it. Because the chances are, if you do that, you will either overcook your larger sentiments, so you won't have the holes in the letter E, for example, or you will undercook your smaller ones and they will be free floating, come detached, and your stamp will be wrecked. So I want to show you the easy way of avoiding this. Now, I'm not going to put this into a proper layer, I'm just going to put it between the plates so you can basically see what I'm talking about. Now, when you put your stamp into your UV lamp, normally it goes face up like this and just slots in, and your first timing basically cures the back of the stamp. Okay, so the bit that attaches to your stamp block is the bit you're curing first of all. So once you know what time that is going to take, stick to it. If you find that 45 seconds, like I do, 45 seconds with my NG7 gel, that gives me a brilliant back. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's just right. A bit like Goldilocks and Three Bears, this. So I know what my back time is. And for most things, I know my front time. Now I know, for example, that to get this text just right, will take 1 minute on the front. So basically, when I've turned it around, I need a minute on here. But I also know that if I leave it with text of this size and this thickness at 1 minute, that might actually be too long for that piece of text. There's a really simple solution to this. Work out the length of time that you want your bigger text to cook for. So, for example, I decided this was going to be 50 seconds rather than 60. And then when you turn it over, all you need to do is get a strip of cardboard, put a piece of cardboard with some temporary, the wrong piece, with some tape runner on it, just one of the temporary tape runners, and place it over that after you have done 50 seconds. Okay, and then put it back in for the extra 10 seconds to finish cooking this bit. That way, your text will come out as you intended it to. So that makes things a heck of a lot easier and far less wasteful than it might otherwise be. Okay, so the result in my case was this stamp, and if I turn it over, hopefully you will be able to see that it's come out just fine. Now, the other thing I want to mention is the size of the border around the text. Now, I have found that you really do want to put a reasonable border around it. Having the frames on, make sure that you get everything the same thickness, which is fantastic. But it also means that, to a certain extent, you are shading some of the lettering from some of the light. You're almost bound to. You know, it's, you know, even with it bouncing off all different angles, you're almost bound to. And so you are much better off by allowing like a centimetre margin around whatever it is you are trying to make, than by cutting it in close just to save a tablespoon of gel. I'm talking from experience here because I've done it both ways, and you are definitely better by adding that extra little bit of gel around it. It allows it to even out, it allows it to flatten out, it allows you to make sure that everything is as even as it can possibly be, and that your letters are not going to be shaded by anything which is blanking off the rest of it, and therefore all the light gets to the bits that it needs to get to. So that's another thing. Now, people have asked how to get the best print for a negative. Now, I print on tracing paper. I set my printer to the highest quality, the darkest setting that I can get it, and so on and so forth. And I've just saved my setting to tracing paper, laser printer, that's it. So I've saved my particular preferences to that. So it makes it very easy for me to make sure that I don't put it on a normal print and get a bad one. But you can probably see, you can still see my finger through here. You know, it's not perfectly light proof by any stretch of the imagination, but obviously it does well enough to produce a stamp. However, if you're having difficulty with your laser printer printing dark enough, there has been advice on the internet previously to do 2 prints and to stick them together. Forget that. Forget it, because the chances of you, even if you put registration marks on, the chances of you lining it up so precisely that you don't mess up your outlines on text is pretty remote. I've tried it. It really does not work for me. You know, if you want to try it, fine, but I do not find it works. What you can do though is use a property of laser ink that you may not have considered. You can hot foil it. By that I mean you can buy deco foils. You can put a piece of deco foil over your laser print and put it through a laminator, and that will make sure that the foil sticks to all your black print, but it also provides an extra barrier to the light. So, you know, if you need to, give that a try. The other thing is washing out. When you wash out a stamp, first of all, when it comes out, I tend to, when it's in its sandwich, I tend to press it and think, yeah, is that firm? And if it's a bit too squidgy, I give the back an extra few seconds. Because if the back is, if it's really, really squidgy, the chances are my letters and things aren't going to stay on. Now, I know my timing's pretty well these days, so I don't usually get a problem. But if you've got a problem getting your timing sorted out, and you think you might have a chance of getting half decent stamp, but it feels a bit too soft, then try a few more seconds on the back and see if that will sort it out for you. Because you can do that even if you've taken it all apart. If you've actually got this in its little sandwich with its piece of plastic, but you haven't got that in place, you can still put that back under, upside down, for a few seconds, just to see if you can save the stamp, if you really think that it hasn't set enough. So that is very useful to know. The other thing is, when washing out, what I do is I go fairly gently first of all, and I try and wash away most of the gel. If I think my stamp is still a little bit soft and not firm enough to take a really good scrubbing, then I'll bring it back in completely wet, just put it under the lamp for about 10 or 15 seconds as it is, and then take it back to the sink and do another scrub. It's better to do that than it is to wreck your stamp by scrubbing vigorously to get rid of the extra gel and then to find that you've scrubbed away some of your letters. You know, it's just better. You can't always get your stamp to come out exactly as you want it first time, you know, when you're starting out. But if you can minimise the throwaways, it will make you much more positive about your stamp making. To make my stamp making more economical, I wanted to cut down on wastage, and what I've actually done is I have decanted some of my gel, you can just about see it in there, into this bottle. Now I hear you say with horror, it's transparent, you're going to wreck your gel. Well, I have found that I can keep it in this bottle, in this little box, and I keep it so that it's nib down, and I just wedge it up with a bit of tissue. And I've also got a little one here filled with stamp gel. And this has been in here in my desk for ages, and it is fine. It's still exactly as it was. And I put it away in my drawer and I just get it out when I need it. Now the advantage of doing that is that it is so much easier to pour. The other thing that I've found is that most of the videos I've seen from people doing this as a business and so on and so forth in various foreign countries, what they've done was just pretend this is my surface that I want to put my gel on. And what they've done is they're holding the bottle up here and they're gradually filling in. Well, I found you get fewer bubbles if you actually keep the tip going along the top of the gel so there isn't a gap. It's a bit like icing a cake. If you're any good at doing royal icing, filling in, you'll probably be really good at this. And I just keep it very, very low down so it doesn't drop. It's just flooding the area. Okay, so that's another thing I do. Right, in order to make the process flow more freely, I found it's a good idea to be prepared. Now, as well as the frames that I've got, I need background plastic for the back of the stamp. Now, this stuff is slightly opaque. Doesn't matter, I know how long it takes to set through this, it's fine. But I have pieces cut up. Now in actual fact, unless you're going to do an awful lot of stamps, you probably only want about 4 of these pieces. And the best thing to do is actually to have 4 pieces the same size as pretty much your glass. Because that means you can do a very small stamp in here, you can do a very big stamp in here. Doesn't matter, you will always have the right size piece and you won't be having to cut more pieces up. So that is the most economical way of doing it. If you want to, you can throw it away, but if you want to keep it, you can keep this, just wipe it dry and reuse. And you don't have to be that fussy about getting it super, super clean. This one happens to be a new piece, but I've got other pieces in here that are not first time use, and they are slightly tacky, they're slightly sort of sticky, they've got patches on, but as long as they haven't got lumps on it, it's fine, you don't have to worry about it. But have them ready to hand. So if you're making 4 stamps, get 4 of these pieces out ready. The same goes for the cellophane that you use for the front. Have your pieces cut to size ready. Now what I've done is, because I'm using bags, I've actually cut the sides and the base off of the bags and just put them onto a clip holder so that I can cut these as and when I need them without any difficulty whatsoever. Then when I got those cut in half, I got this half to use. So it saves on aggravation and means I don't have to spend lots of time cutting bits. So that's really handy to know. Now, this tube that you saw earlier, I use for mending any stamps. If I find I've got a hole in a stamp where I don't want one, or heaven forbid, I've got a free floating letter that is, only partly stuck down, but not quite, a bit of this gel. Once your stamp is dry, a bit of this gel, use it as a glue, and then whack it back under the UV lamp. And as long as you don't get this on the surface that you actually, where you actually want it to print, as long as it's underneath, it'll be fine, no problem whatsoever. For my cleanup, I tend to use window cleaner, and if I really want to go overboard, then I'll use some rubbing alcohol after I've used that, but generally window cleaner will do the job fine. And I use these sort of fake chamois for cleaning up jobs because they don't shed hairs anywhere. And I find if you put your cleaner on this and you wipe your glass plates, it's fine. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Take care now. Bye bye.